Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you as usual from the Pine Hills Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. I am in the Extreme Studios with RD from the great Midwest, who's in the middle of a blizzard, a polar vortex, if you will. And, that's just typical January weather from the great Midwest. And RDV, tonight we're going to be covering To Catch a Thief 1955 with Cary Grant and Grace Kelly, a movie that is pretty high on my list when it comes to what I call origin story movies, where we mentioned Raiders of the Lost Ark's really good, but not too long ago we did a Charlton Heston movie called Secret of the Incas that one of the remarkable things we said, oh, that's where Indiana Jones got its inspiration from. And a little fun fact, as I was looking up some of the stuff about To Catch a Thief, I couldn't help but notice as this movie's playing on Paramount here in the United States that I just fell in love all over again with how gorgeous the south of France is and just how romantic this movie is. An absolutely beautiful print. The person who shot the cinematography for Secret of the Incas also happened to do here. That's the B director, is the guy that says, okay, I'm not working with necessarily all the main stars. Let me go get all the stock footage, because I tell you, this is more of a romantic kind of caper escapade that predates Ocean's 11 and all the jewel heist kind of things there too. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to diving into it. Was this a first watch for you, sir?
This was a first watch for me, and I can kind of see where they kind of got like the James Bond stuff was kind of like probably stolen some of the stuff, because the way how he gets away from like look at like stuff like Mission Impossible or any of those like cats and mouse. I love this movies.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome. I love this movie. Grace Kelly is just fun in here. If you're kind of led to believe at first, because she's like, does she really? Because basically, here's the whole thing. The A to B. This movie basically is a guy is a retired Cary Grant plays a retired cat thief. He hasn't stolen anything in 15 years since he got pardoned by serving in the World War II resistance, against the Germans. So he's been living life, this in his villa, whatever. And then one day, someone starts robbing rich people here, and of course, the police, being bumbling idiots, think that he's responsible and are just completely useless in this whole entire film. And so he's basically playing cat and mouse. He finally gets through one of his old contacts, gets a hold of a guy to basically figure out what are the richest people are out with the jewels, and so he uses that information to go investigate. But meanwhile, the person on top of the list is this Jessie Stevens, who happens to have a daughter, Grace Kelly. And so he pretends to be a guy from Oregon to like smooth him, and while he's also while he's fooling around with her, he's got to deal with this other girl, played by I believe it is Brigitte Auber, or so that's Brigitte Auber, who is another girl who is basically loves the fact that he actually is the cat, and stuff. She loves the heights and stuff.
Well, she's the daughter of the guy that
He
he knows a bunch of people when he escapes the police at the beginning that they all kind of don't like him because they're like, hey, we all got pardoned, we're working in this restaurant and we're servants, and here you come waltzing in and all that. That's kind of what happens in the middle. So she's awestruck with the guy, right?
Yeah, so you already got that. You got this girl, and so then you also got Grace Kelly, who are also vying for his attention in this movie. And it's the guy, he's just trying to prove his innocence. And I love the whole time he's got the police are tailing him, and they give these different. I love how Hitchcock shows you these different guys, who might be the cat. It's a lot of misdirection in this for mystery. Acting done well. I thought this was really well. It kind of reminds me of, like, for those who watched The Transporter.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a
complete rip-off of this, absolutely.
Yeah, but still fucking grand. I love it. It's a great movie.
It's a lot of fun.
Yep. It is. And honestly, it's not a rip. I wouldn't say call it a rip. I would call it paying tribute to movies like these.
Inspired, whatever term you want to use.
Inspired, well, everything's a rip-off. Nothing's original ideas, and it's what matters now is if you do it better than the original. If you don't, then you're crap, But getting back to this movie though, I love the fact that cat, whenever he's called the cat, he's a cat burglar. So they keep showing these fancy, dark, lit rooftops and stuff on there. See those what do they call it? the curved was it not stiletto? Was it Stecco? The rooftops, the shingles that curved like.
Well, oh yeah, so that would be what you call like a barrel tile roof that's
Yeah.
prevalent in
I love
Mediterranean
those.
countries. Yes.
But he also, as ironically about this whole movie, he's got Cary Grant's character. He's got a cat, a black cat. For this film, but they show it every once in a while. They show the film, and they kind of. I just love it. It's just like it's beautifully done as well as shot. As you can see, you said you got the guy from the other movie we reviewed, taking on this, and then you also get Hitchcock. Hitchcock knew how to get the perfect cast.
Yep.
I was so glad that they did not. They waited till Jimmy Stewart was busy to get Cary Grant because originally Cary Grant was basically retired at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know. They convinced him to come out of retirement to do this movie, and honestly, it's a fun movie. I've only seen a few of the Hitchcock movies, and by far, this is one of my favorites. To Catch a Thief, and also I love the other one we just did, North by Northwest.
It's I'll back up a little bit and give a bit of a different perspective. Growing up, Hitchcock was always known as a master of suspense. He had a TV show on and would, preface movies. He puts a cameo of himself in there. Here, he was on the bus. I think Hitchcock, this movie is a bit, divisive among some people because he knows what he wants to do. He storyboards everything out. He's very clear on his idea. Some people take different approaches, but he had built up a long history of hardcore suspense and type of his films. So some people thought, oh, he really let his foot off the gas or whatever on this because it's not really suspenseful. It's not like North by Northwest, right? In terms of that dangerous thing. Here, it's basically a romantic adventure, I would say. And I think that's the interesting thing about it. I think there's a lot of Hitchcock themes in there that are lightly discussed, whether you want to talk about old versus young relationships that you can have. Some people notice that. I would say you could argue this is a movie about women because he's got a relationship with his the older lady that has the jewels and her daughter and all sorts of things too. But Hitchcock was always a bit of a weird dude, and some people even pointed out with Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window with her because we know her from that. I think too another thing that was interesting about this movie is that growing up in the 80s, seeing these kinds of movies from the generations like my parents who saw it, I was reminded of, oh, she's just died because she ended up after this, a year or two after this movie, retired to marry the Prince of Monaco, have children. She died like in a car crash or something in the early 80s. So she's just known for I'm not going to say she's hot, she's sexy, she's cute, or a combination of that. When you look at her and you look at Cary Grant, part of the perfect casting here is two things. It's their chemistry, which you've already kind of talked about. But two, the way Hitchcock frames this movie, this is absolutely a sexy, gorgeous, sumptuous movie. It's so beautiful, the colors and everything. I cannot believe how stunning it looks there, too. Now, obviously, there's some backstock and set pieces and all that, which are fine, but enough of the overhead shots that he establishes at the beginning are just fantastic. It's really a love letter to the south of France. And any of you that have been there, this is a movie that avoids all the disgusting low-level things that happen in poor towns on the south of France and all that. This is when you think of high money, high society, these little pockets of ultra uber wealth, what it looks like, absolutely stunning. We wouldn't see this again until probably, that Steve Martin movie in the 80s, not Roxanne, but the one where he plays Rubric with Michael Caine. That one where they're in the south of France, kind of the same thing. It's that type of a movie, right? To me, that movie almost comes from this. This movie is just, it's very charming to watch. It's very light. You could call it a date movie, and as a guy, I would not be offended.
No, I would say this kind of reminds me of Thomas Crown Affair.
Yes, the original Thomas Crown Affair, as I always say, is a hell of a lot better than the Pierce Brosnan one. I will admit that the Pierce Brosnan one, that's peak Brosnan. And Rene Russo, I just don't think those two have the chemistry that these two have in here, because it's so clear to me that when you look at the original with Faye Dunaway in there, it's a lot sexier, it's just a lot more hip. It's just better to me. I mean, but I will watch them both. But there's something about the movies that would start coming out where now that you have this robust middle class and upper class United States, you have a wealthy American now meeting the Europeans on their turf like you do here in Cary Grant. And Cary Grant, for whatever you want to say about him as an actor or what he looks like, we talked about some of the older ones, how we like it. This is not something, I'm going to be honest, that I could see Humphrey Bogart doing. I'm not saying he's not a good actor, an excellent actor, and I love watching him. this movie to me defines what Cary Grant is, and it's much in the same way that when you see Pierce Brosnan, he just plays a different kind of Bond. And you know what? Damn it, if it works, do it. This movie in no way is a bad movie. It's not one that you go, well, it didn't age well. It's still fun to watch today. Anybody of any age can watch it.
This reminds you a little bit like a Roger Moore Bond movies when he meets the girl and the girl is a little headstrong and he's trying to talk her down.
Yep.
Grace Kelly is that type of character. She is rich, headstrong, and he's trying to. And she's he figures it out. She's in France trying to look for a husband, and he's like off. And he's off the market. And then I said, as he's using her date because she wants to go for a picnic. Like, well, let's stop here. He wants to check out this place. Look at the rooftops here because it's one of the marks that this new cat burglar that's framing him might go after. So then he ends up seeing his former boss, which turns out to be that Brigitte Auber's dad, leaving there too. And he's like, "What the heck? Why is he there too?" But then the whole entire time they're being pursued by these two bumbling idiot cops. And I love how they just get away from them. He's like, he says, "Well, how about we go? How long is it before we get to the place we want to go?" And she's like, "Well, come on." Well, why are we dawdling? She's like, "I thought you never asked." She steps on and this is I love this scene where she steps on the gas. This is how I feel when I have anyone else driving that's not me, because you're a passenger, and she's taking these really winding roads real fast. Which reminds me of, do you remember the chases you had with Sean Connery and the other girl? And then
there's a little sped up vision in this one. It's very clear.
I love it because they keep showing his legs. His legs are kind of, and you see his hands on his legs, and he's trying to relax and stuff. He's gripping at things, and he's like, and she's going, his tires squealing, and just going like, she almost hits a bus oncoming, and then there was a lady with a basket walking in front. She drops a blanket, and I love it. They show the lady, and then you see the close up of her feet, of Grace Kelly's feet slamming on both the brakes. And then she speeds up again, and then you see as the French police are still chasing him, they have to stop for that lady too because she goes back because she realizes that she dropped a piece of her clothing.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and then they stop, but then they keep driving, and then you see a chicken, and they're able to get around it. The next thing you hear because the chicken went back in front of across the road and caused the Frenchman to go almost over the cliff. But it's interesting though. You brought up her Grace Kelly, how she died. Well, she had a hemorrhage while she was driving, and she actually went off the cliff on 24 feet, rolled over, and that's how she died. Pretty much, sad. 52 years old. That sucks.
Yeah, it's. But you know what? That was her path, and she seemed to be consistent with it, and so that's fine. The thing about this movie that I kind of want to take a little bit of a different perspective of is watching it again this weekend. I looked at for a 50s movie, this is very sexy. It's not about getting somebody pregnant, running off, and going against like a family values kind of type movie. It's more of a glamorous thing, and I think the movie is like I say, it's shot so well. It's just absolutely incredible to watch. But early on, the very beginning, if you look at it in terms of the roles that a man plays at the point in his life and a woman, I think this is where Hitchcock kind of has this layer in it. I don't think it's not what the movie's about necessarily, although you could argue that To Catch a Thief means somebody that's stolen your heart. How do you land him, right? From the woman's perspective. That's why I'd argue this is a very female-centric type movie. And to go with that, I'll point out a couple key elements, because that's kind of the big thing that struck me today, different perspective. Yeah. Well, yeah, he's a man who's probably late 40s, let's say, or maybe early 50s. It's hard to tell as far as the role goes. You get an idea that in the French Resistance it had been 15 years, so maybe he's, around, let's just call him 40, 45, right? So he's tending to his garden, which to me is like philosophically what a man would be doing at that point in his life when you don't necessarily live that long. He's retired and all that. He notices... and he's very patient and he's very composed. That's the thing about Cary Grant, that, instead of acting like the transporter, you beat the shit out of people. How do you beat people when you're of middle age, let's say, and you know that you're not necessarily an innocent guy or you're going to be friend. You have to deal with your past, right?
Yeah.
So this opening scene, I think in the first 10, 15 minutes is absolutely a great way to start it. It's like great opening gambit, if you want to call it, because the police show up. He's watching them. He grabs a shotgun, loads it. And he's very calm. This is where Cary Grant shines, when he isn't even talking. You just see him moving around. He's got his maid in there. He invites the police in.
out of this outfit. He goes upstairs.
Yeah, he charms them. He's like, "Well, can I get into something more, whatever?" They hear a gunshot, the door's locked, and then it's a car. I don't know if it's I think it was a red body, maybe a white ragtop or like that. And you get the speed chase going through, and he's up on a hill, and you see it like you say. This is one of the first of many of these great exterior scenes going through, and it goes back and forth and all that. And then when the police catch the car, you find out it's his maid. So he's. And what he did is when they left, he hops on like the train that goes into town down the side of the mountain. And here's the thing that really should tell you it's an adventure movie. Within 10, 15 minutes, all this has happened, not necessarily any violence. I wouldn't say the cops were bumbling at this point, but they're no match for him, right? They're average Joes. He's a professional. So you see all this. He goes into the restaurant. You see people walking to him, and all of a sudden you're like in the south of France, and you've got the water there and all that. He meets somebody from his past. It's a freaking adventure, and this is really cool because now he's being hunted, and he has to get with the guy's young daughter to go across to a beach place to meet a contact to get some information about what he's doing because he decides, hey, I've got to figure out who's stealing these jewels because I'm the only one that can figure it out. That's the only way that I'm going to set free. So I love this setup. It's so simple. I wish a lot more movies would do things like this.
Because she's like, well, how are you going to get out? He's like, well, I'll just be out in the open. He puts on his swim trunks and he lays in the water. And next thing you know, they show up because the boat, when they're on the boat, he's hiding in the boat. This girl, Brigitte Auber, is like, oh yeah, I love the fact you're a cat right away. I'm like, this could be a red herring, or she actually is more.
Well, it's a young woman crushing on the idea of what she thinks a man is, which is what we have in this movie with all the women.
He is charming. He's good looking. Like I said, as I watch this movie, I'm thinking like he's kind of the Dean Martin type, the Frank Sinatra. Women are charmed by these men, older men.
Yeah. Women come to him. He doesn't go seeking women out.
Exactly.
Right. He's got pull.
Yeah. Yes. Major pull. Major. He's got, as the kids say, major riz. So I like this, because how it's shot. He gets up the boat. Next to the boat goes away. He's in the water. It's a zoom, and they zoom.
Did you like that little leg shot though before he gets to the water of her? That's their way of showing this girl's becoming a woman.
Yeah. So I love how they zoom out though. He's in his trunk. He gets out of the water. He's walking up and all, and it just he goes up to he has a phone call, it's for you, and he talked, it's a guy talking to him as his former friend.
That's the secret contact.
Yeah, the guy who was doing their pull-ups the whole entire time. You're misdirected. You're misdirected. The guy handed him the phone.
Yep.
Could this be the new cat? He's guy's in shape. He's fit. He can run around. I kept thinking, man, if this had been in a Bond movie, that guy would have been the cat. That guy, but it's a whole misdirection though. And that's what I like about this. Now there is murder in this, not with a silencer, like a PPK, no, not like that. But while he's investigating, someone tries to bump him up, but instead they hit the wrong man. They hit the guy who's doing the pull-ups. It's a different guy. But that guy, and at the funeral, he shows up as old friends, they're all there. The girl Brigitte slaps him across the face, and or not slaps him, but basically is telling him, "Why are you here?" And she causes this whole scene. He ends up slapping her because she's being hysterical, and then he leaves without a word whatsoever. Like I said, there's a sense of this. Yeah, no doubt that in this movie, Hitchcock has just strong, powerful characters in here. They all play a part. None of them are really dopes. It's kind of like the cops in here. I kept thinking it's like the Pink Panther movies.
It's not a hunt movie. It's not whatever. It's just that their presence has to be there enough, and you have to feel the sense of he's got to figure this out before they get him
moving. And they're tailing him because and he still keeps sending him notes. You use up your 8 lives. You only have 1 life left. But he knows that it's water on it on the beach when he gets because if someone looked inside his pick, there was not that one. Because he had a list he got from the insurance broker with all the other things. He noticed that somebody had been in his jacket, and there's a water print on it from the hand. So that's a clue right there. It goes remember, he was just out on the beach because he had gone there second time with Grace Kelly, and when we see Brigitte Auber, it happens to be spies him. He's suntanning with her. She swims out to the barge, and then he swims up to her. And this we get that classic scene where basically he's talking there, and she's kind of flirting with him, oh, why go for the old car when you get a new car that'll last a lot longer? I'm just like, dang. And then he's like, well, I'm busy. I'm with her. And then actually, no, Grace Kelly's right behind him. He's like, oh shit. Like, I love that scene. The whole, because he's not pursuing this younger girl, but
it's all a test. How
Yeah.
does he handle it? He handles it like a man, right?
Well,
He's
yeah.
able to work through both of them. He's not manipulating. He's not trying to have sex with either one of them.
No.
He's in a dangerous situation. He's got to perform. And what I liked about this here too is, like I say, when I say this is very female centric, he's dealing with a young up and coming woman that's smart, that's intelligent, that came from a family of people that helped him out when during the French resistance, because that's when France rolled over for communism back in the day, and you had your freedom fighters, and then they became free. So that was kind of a big deal. But here they are in this very wealthy, one of the biggest concentrations of wealth in Europe, there on the south of France, and they're working in a restaurant, right? I'm not saying it's not a bad living or whatever, but it's a worker class type thing, and I think they have some animosity that he's upper class. But I think she's got the idea that, hey, I've got a lot I can offer you. And like any young woman that thinks they can have any man, they try to convince a man, especially when a man says no. And they're not used to being told no, because girls always get what they want, right? Especially when they throw their body into the equation, which is what she's doing here, right? In the 50s sort of way. But then you're right. When Grace Kelly comes up and he says to her very plainly, and he's not being a dick about it, but the way he says it so charmingly, he's basically saying she is something you're not. She is a woman and you are a girl. You're a child, basically. And he's not talking down to her, but he's just trying to basically answer her and get out of this situation. Because remember, people are chasing his ass.
Because he says that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, she's a woman, you're a girl. And then Grace Kelly comes up, and then it's like, just like, and they have a little like a cat fight, a little bit. Not really fight, but verbal back and forth.
You could call it a cat fight, right? I mean, that's kind of one of the jokes. Like, you knew Hitchcock was going to put all these women in combinations together with each other, right?
Well, he's called the cat. There's cat fights. You keep seeing the cat every once in a while. His own cat is at his villa. Mm-hmm. But basically got a young girl who has a crush on him and loves the fact that he's the cat. But she's also says like, well, you live in your rich little kingdom up there, while the rest of us, slave away. It's not fair. But then it's really revealed later on that, well, Grace Kelly figures out that he is the cat, and that she's actually been watching him. She saw him before on the beach, and one day when he got off the boat, So she's like, she knows all this, and she's been playing him, and it's just like, this is a scene where she reveals him right after they were driving. She was driving recklessly, going crazy, and to get the partner, sitting there eating the chicken, and nibbling on it. Really not really eating it.
This arguing, fighting, and bad driving, just like we said about Mission Impossible 2 to the young Professor Pixel, young 20-something on an extreme movie show. It's called flirting.
Yeah, notorious.
Why? Because Jessie, her mom, just has that female instinct and basically says, no, this guy's a man. He's the real deal. I just think that he is. I just trust it, right? So the point is, do you have this mother-daughter kind of thing? She kind of is intrigued because he's different and different works. And let me ask you this. You mentioned a very specific detail when he was swimming, and then he was getting a phone call, and the guy's doing the pull-ups. And that's a great shot when he's doing a pull-up, and he's got his head turned kind of looking, and you can see him, right? Did you notice that when he laid down in the sand, he walked by a lady in all gold? Because that's her, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that's a little detail that some people might have missed. That it's true. Hitchcock shows us that she sees him, but it's not quite evident. You almost might miss it if your eyes are 100% on him, because there's all these people laying around on towels and stuff like that too. So she's basically decided, I am going to woo him. I'm not going to throw my body at him because, ooh, gross, only a girl does that. And right now I'll just, let him know I'm interested. And now I will up the ante. I will do what a good woman always does to capture a man's heart, and that is to have a picnic. I don't know how you feel about it. Honestly, I did hear people say they thought that was absolutely sexist because, here's a woman cooking for a guy. No, it's a romantic little thing on the French countryside. I mean, come on, what better place to have a picnic, right? That's kind of the funny part about this movie. If you think about it like that, it's kind of like a joke.
Here's the good thing about this. And sorry, I forgot that my microphone was way over there, so I was a little quiet. So her mother, Grace Kelly's mother in this is played by actress Jessie Royce, Landis. Mm-hmm. When after her mother, they basically he has it's like a 4th of July or whatever. There's fireworks going on in the background. He has a nice romantic kind of like
And then the
rendezvous with Grace Kelly. Yeah, so yeah, and she's flirting. He's like, oh, because I know what you're looking at. Even though in the dark, I can tell what your eyes are looking at. Because she has this necklace on. He's like, yeah, it's cheap and a knockoff. It's imitation. So then he retires his own room in the hotel. And next thing you know, you hear a scream, and then he goes, and she's like, what's going on? And he's like, it's like because Grace Kelly busts in his room, says like, you stole my mom's, jewelry. He's like, no, I didn't. I was in here the whole time. So she's like, so she basically follows him. He goes into her mother's room, where her mother's like, it's like, I'm glad those things are gone. They're a pain in the muck anyway. So. And then she's like, well, mother, it's like, he's like, he's not really, this lumber guy, he's actually John Robie, whatever. Like he's the cat. He's like, and like, well, it's like, your mother didn't care. He's like, and she says like, well, can't you guide the guy? I'd rather deal with this guy, daughter, because this guy actually is honest about who he is. He admits that he is a cat when he's talking to her. He's like, and he's trying to help her and stuff. It's like, he's on the level. It's like, I'd rather have a guy who's on the level than a guy who's deceitful, And she calls the cops, and next thing you know, and she's like, well, the cops are in the way, and she's got her umbrella in there. And she's acting like a 16-year-old. She's acting like Brigitte Auber at this point, even though she's supposed to be like in her mid-20s or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And so I love it how he basically slips out of there while they're arguing, and the cops show up, and they look at her like, where is he? He's up on the rooftop. Mm-hmm. And it kind of gets it kind of like, if you remember Dick Van Dyke, when they're up they show the scenes where they're on the roof, it's like that, at nighttime stuff. It's like, I love that kind of stuff when they show people walking on the roofs at nighttime, and
I know, right? It's
so cool.
Yeah, and so when they're having an argument, what I think is interesting here is because, again, going back to the whole female theme part to it, it's really not about Robie, but with these women, I mean, the mother definitely knows he's a man, he's worth it. And she's come into money because her husband's gone and whatever. So, but she still has a certain amount of class about her, and she doesn't want her daughter to, like all women, run off with some playboy skeezer. She doesn't. So she's like, "Oh wow, you actually did something, right as far as identifying. Big deal. Okay, but this is real. The ante is raised, right? Not only have the jewels have been stolen, it's we all know this. Okay, now it's fun. Now all the fun and games are gone. The picnics and the romantic escapades." Done, because this is the way that normally you would build tension up, I think, a bit more, say, in other Hitchcock films, whereas in here, being a romantic kind of adventure, it doesn't have to be completely violent, but it is interesting because at this point you're like, okay, it's nice to have a romantic thing, but let's get back to what's going on with it. So again, I just think it's kind of interesting because this is where you get some. I don't know if you think this is the weak part of the movie or chunk of it here, where you find out that somebody ends up dying, and so it's like, oh yeah, now the stakes are increasing. There's not that many people that have jewels that can to get going. So now violence has been introduced into the movie. Okay, now what do we do?
Well, it's funny because the papers think that the cat's dead. That was like the guy who was murdered was the cat burglar, and as Cary Grant says, like, no, this guy had a wooden leg. There's no way he was able to be limber to climb off the ledges, off the rooftops, get in there.
And they didn't care. This is where you said they were idiots. I will say that they're smart enough to know we don't care whether or not we got the real one. We just care that we got somebody so we can make everybody feel safe and just be a bitch about it like cops can be.
Oh, so when I say idiots, idiots means they can't catch them, because that's how incompetent they are.
Yeah.
But yes, they at this point, at the very, very beginning of the movie, he knew. They don't care if he's innocent or not. They're going to pin it all on him because all evidence points in, because somebody is imitating him, what he used to do, how he got in, got out, And he says this. He's like, the past 15 years, he's talking to John Williams' character, H. Houston. He was the insurance broker, and he says like, hey, it's like you may stole an ashtray of a hotel, you're a thief. I'm a guy who stole jewels and stuff like this, and unlike you, I gotta constantly keep proving my innocence.
Yes.
Yes. Where you just stole an ashtray, they don't care about that. They're not gonna pin stuff on you. Because I was good at what I did, and they automatically just are lazy. They're lazy cops. They're gonna assume it's him instead of actually doing the footwork and all. So,
And petty crime is one thing, but sophisticated crime that there's an intelligence behind it is another. That's one of the reasons why this movie is kind of interesting, because here he basically he's irritated, he's mad at the cops because he realizes he still has to do it and they don't care. So now he's really on his own. But the person that died is if we back up a little bit, we mentioned within 10-15 minutes, he's you got the adventure chase scene and he's there. This is such a beautiful shot, and if you've ever been in the south of France, there's plenty of places like this. But where he gets out and he's walking, you see this guy kind of limping a little bit, and he's all dressed up, and he's pouring out a drink. He's the wine dude at the place, right? That's his thing. He goes around with the wine and champagne, as people like to call it. But it's him, and like that, and so we saw him earlier in the film. The camera does pan from left to right in that scene where you see the guy, because when he realizes him, he kind of screws up the champagne and he's like, "Oh, merci, merci," to the people there, like, because he's so stunned to see John Robie, showing up unannounced. So something big must be going down. So he gets whacked. So again, it's one of those things where I don't know. With Hitchcock starting off, I think in the 30s with movies, I think even some black and white. I'm not a big Hitchcock person like I am a John Carpenter, but I do know that things have changed from the 30s to the 40s to the 50s as far as going to color, and then this VistaVision and color with Technicolor, whatever it is.
Crisp and clear. I love that.
So I just thought, okay, maybe he's just showing off, the spectacle of it, because you're getting the real town, you're getting the real clouds, the real light at the time and everything. It's beautiful to watch something like it, which if you go there now, it hasn't changed all that much.
Sure.
But now it's like, what do you do? Well, what do you do in all these situations? You throw everything together in one big area, which is going to be the masquerade ball here, which is the last act, and then we're going to figure out who the killer is. So,
when I found this was in color, I was kind of like half heartbroken. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a color movie, but because I love like watching the burglar films, the chase stuff when it's in the black and white stuff.
Yep.
But that's actually because they knew it was gonna be color. They purposely made sure they got a lot of bright, just beautiful landscapes. The bathing suit, trunks, whatever he's wearing, bright red clothes, all that stuff. They make sure everything popped. They even have a nice masquerade ball at the end. I want to quickly bring up Grace Kelly's character was also infatuated like to use a cat too for a while.
Yep.
So it's like okay. So I was thinking, like, is it Grace Kelly? Is she a cat burger? Because she's like, let's go to cat. She's like kind of like if you've ever watched The Thin Man, his wife was really intrigued by it. Let's go do this. Let's go do this. Let's go do. She's like a thrill seeker. She's a thrill seeker.
Yep.
Well, so is Brigitte Auber's character. I'm like, oh my god, it's like it's a lot of misdirection, but. As I'm watching this and I'm thinking like, oh, it has to be Brigitte Auber because she's the jilted one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah, but I mean, so as I'm watching this, because I basically so at the end, the last 10 minutes, there's a masquerade ball, costume party, everything, and he says to Grace Kelly, he's like, how would you like to be part of a theft, or thief, a caper, or whatever? She's like, really? Because she apologizes after the funeral. After the guy gets married, she's like, I was like, and so he basically brings her along. They, her and her mother dress. It's supposed to like a 1915 or 1500s. France, they have the huge balls, rooms, the Victorian, whatever.
Beautiful set.
Yes,
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, like a masquerade ball, basically. That's what it is. And so the mother and Grace Kelly are both dressed in the dress. Everybody's got the white wigs on and all that stuff. He's dressed up as the servant where he's on black and he has a cape on. You can't see it. It's an umbrella. So you already knew where it was going to go on with this because the cops are watching. Like it's him right there. But next thing you know, she goes for he go because she says, "Oh, my heart medication," because that's what Jessie Stevens says. So he goes in to get the mother's thing. Here comes on the guy out. It doesn't say a word though, so it's not him. He switched places with somebody. It's revealed later on at the end who's been dancing with her with Grace Kelly this whole entire time has been H.H. Houston this whole entire time while he's been up on the roof in his cape, his cat costume, where basically his thief costume, waiting for the real thief to come out.
Yes.
And I love this. Like he almost slips at first time because he hears it come out, and as they chase McBurr, thinks before he was even revealed that who it is, the cops see him up there, shut a light on, and they start shooting at him. And Grace Kelly's like, Grace Kelly's telling him, like, you idiot, it's not him. He's trying to catch the actual thief, And they don't care. They keep shooting. He manages to basically catch the person, pull the mask off. It's Brigitte Auber. And she's just basically like, gives a spiel and stuff, at first. But then she gets away. There's a little cat and mouse chase on the roof in the dark. You can't see her. Finally, she realizes she's pinned. She has to jump down, and she almost falls. He catches her, and he basically said, and being the cool Cary Grant he is, like, now you're going to reveal who you're working for and the reason why you did this and stuff. He's like, I'm going to let you up. He's like, I only got 30 seconds before I let you drop. And I kept thinking, this is the Sean Connery Bond thing.
Exactly.
So I was like,
now you don't ever think that's really going to happen, but you're right. It's basically like, you know what? I'm more important than saving your life because my life is on the line here just as well, even though you're the one that's hanging literally by my hand.
Yeah,
I'm in charge.
So I kept thinking, like, I wonder if Ira Fleming took any inspiration for this movie, because Bond wasn't until about 10 years later.
Well, the movie was 10 years later, but Ian Fleming himself was actually a spy, so he wrote it based off himself, starting with Dr.
Yeah, I know. So
I'm
wondering if he took any influence from this at all, because this is kind of like a Bond without the violence. It felt like a Bond movie. It felt like Sean Connery with a little bit of Roger Moore.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So I said I do like this movie. I know originally when we were like, I told you like this movie won. I kind of feel like you're kind of like, oh. So
I loved it. I've always loved it.
So like I said, I'm glad to watch this movie. I own this, and I also had I got a combo. I have the Catch a Thief and the what's the one?
North by
Northwest. I had the combo Blu-ray combo I found. So like I said, it's a very fun movie. And at the end, he pretty much goes back to his villa, and he pretty much he's there. Next thing you know, is Grace Kelly's there, and she's kind of like makes a pass at him. It's like she's a great place, great place to raise a family. And that's kind of leave like that. Like they're gonna like get together.
My mom would love it, I think, is what she says. Which is
my mom would love it.
Now you're gonna have to deal with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the last part to it, it's if you think of it like a Bond movie, or realize to your point that this kind of was before Bonds as far as movies goes. It is one of the first ones where you set the template for a playboy, a man of action, if you will. And there's different versions of it. Things get watered down and all that, but it was very exciting watching James Bond over the years kind of turn into something, because when we've talked about some of the James Bond reviews, the young 20-something Professor Pixel and I, we've been watching in order every few months, but we do a Bond one. There was something about watching a movie on the big screen that had this kind of, even if it was the second director's film shots, because they're beautiful and you hear about things. Europe is very old relative to the United States, so when you get to see places on the big screen, literally, that aren't just sound stages or backstops, it's cool. You and I have remarked many times over the years about Humphrey Bogart and just the connection to San Francisco, let's say, or just films in San Francisco. Well, one movie we've yet to review here with Hitchcock, Vertigo, takes place in San Francisco. That's another one that puts San Francisco in the light too, in color, as it were. And I think with this movie, again, it's a bit lighthearted. I don't think it's particularly deep. You can take it for what it is, but it's one of those interesting movies that, unlike Secret of the Incas, is one that I think you can go back and watch again and again. I think for Secret of the Incas, as much as it might have influenced Indiana Jones, and even though Indiana Jones, people say, well, no, it was influenced from like the serial things where you leave on a cliffhanger back from the 20s, 30s, 40s, on the Pulp Fiction kind of stuff. I just think this probably is the precursor to Bond. I do know that personally, like I say, when I talk about the original Thomas Crown Affair versus the remake, it's very similar, and I look at it from the aspect of men and women's relationships. If you want a high quality woman, well, you have to be a high quality man. And how do they flirt? How do they engage? What's the dance, if you will? Call it romance, sex, whatever you want to call it. But there is a thing to it. And what's amazing to me is I think Hitchcock, known for suspense, we just talked about how suspenseful North by Northwest is and how fun that is, right? Now we get to see him deal with a woman. I think some people were turned off by that idea, but I have no problem with it. It's not the Hallmark Christmas movie kind of fantasy thing that has its place that we started briefly talking about when we were doing some holiday movies. This is just a movie that if you look at it as a guy, you go, man, that's how I want to live. I want to have my private little villa so I can have my space. metaphysically and literally. All I want to do is just get up on my schedule,
Yep.
tend to start the way I want to. Nobody messes with me. I've got a very competent person that works for me who happens to be a woman. I go to town when I want to. I do things on my schedule, and there's a price to pay for it. He has to do that literally. So he can't just ignore it, life, because of his background, even though he's tried doing the right thing. I think you nailed it on the head when you said he's explaining to them that, I have to constantly prove my innocence, right? So in the middle of just trying to do all that, he's got to deal with a woman, but not just any woman, a woman that is unlike any woman that he's ever met before. And she's realizing, oh man, I met a guy that is unlike any man I've ever met before. He's a man, and I have to be sincere about it. I have to woo him. I have to take him out for a picnic. I have to do all those kinds of things, but I have to do it in a classy way because he wants a woman. He doesn't want a girl. So Hitchcock did a very good job with this movie. I can almost find very little faults with it too, other than I wish I saw a little bit more of the towns and all that, because it starts off as an adventure movie and gets you sucked in. I wish there's a little bit more of that, but I really can't complain. This movie's top notch. It's a great film. If you ever get a chance to see it on the big screen, I highly recommend doing it.
I don't know if they ever will. I mean, at least where I live, maybe even a chance if you lived in California, because they always play all the weird older movies on the older cinemas. But
right,
yeah, this would be one I'd love to see on the big screen. To Catch a Thief, all those older movies and all. I want the Borget movies. I would love to see those on the big movie screen. But yeah.
I want to say something about the clothes in here and the jewelry because they're just absolutely stunning. There is this whole idea of clothes coming down from being kings and queens, and allegedly, if you consider the power structure there, people that are most important have the best clothes, the best fabrics. There's a way to show it off, but really, the function of clothes is to use as a tool to how you want to be treated, right? So if you dress like a bum, you're not going to get the best treatment, right? If you dress too ostentatiously and you walk into a McDonald's in the hood, you're going to get rolled. You know what I'm saying? So what was interesting at this time is these layers of class that would separate over here in America. What does America do that, Europeans kind of do on their own? Well, America makes a study of it. And so you would have people that, as we've remarked with Humphrey Bogart, everybody was wearing a suit. Everybody's dressed right. Dressing is more than just clothes or a suit or like in this case here, accessories. It's how they match. It's how they fit in relation to your size. It has to deal with your complexion on your skin and your hair and your age and all these things. And it's one thing to sit there like in the Ocean's 11 remake with all the handsome people from around 19 or 2000 or whatever the movie came out, where it's flashy but great clothes. And I want to give Cary Grant a lot of props for this. You know that they're really good clothes, but again, you're not sitting there staring at it going, oh my God, he's got the perfect half-inch cuff. He's got, 4-button here. He's a fat dude, so he has a box cut or whatever. He's perfectly trimmed, manicured, but you're staring at his face and just watching him move very elegantly. And she, literally, when you watch this ballroom and that big fat gold dress she has, like she was on the beach, you could say she upgraded as the movie went on. I'm telling you, the way she's walking, it looks like she's floating on air. Very princess-like as she would soon become in a few years from this movie. So I love how when people make these sumptuous, beautiful kind of movies, and it's not flashy. Flashy is not classy, but it's expensive and has taste. So the place he's at's probably $1 gazillion or whatever, but you don't know. It's just a set piece, but it's believable. And it makes you think that this is a cultured man. And again, I think you're right when you compared it to Bond, because that's what we think of with Bond. So I think in many ways, this is a movie that you can go, well, as a man, I would aspire to be this. As a woman, maybe, I don't want to speak for women, might aspire for that. I don't know, but a lot of fun. My God, what a fun movie.
Final thoughts. If you've never seen this movie, give it a chance, especially if you like cat and mouse stuff. You like any of the Antonio Banderas movies. We did Zorro. Just basically deception, mystery, romance, good-looking people, good-looking scenery.
There's nothing wrong with saying I want to see some good-looking people or handsome people or play. What's wrong with that?
No, I'm just saying.
All right.
There's no fake, no Excel cone, and there's no cosmetic surgery. Everyone here is 100% natural.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So. Honestly,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Honestly, it's a fun movie, and I look forward to. I was looking at some other Cary Grant movies. I'm like, well, I'm not sure what else I could watch, but because I him, that I guess the other one would be Charade.
Yes.
So,
yes, that's a good one.
So maybe we'll review that for Tuesday, since we haven't really planned it out. But that being said,
well, this one won our poll, correct?
Yep, by a landslide.
So on Tuesday we'll be posting a new poll. We'll have some selections on there
Yeah.
too. So
I will not be around next Sunday though.
that's fine. That's not a problem.
So if you're going to review some by yourself, I'll put a poll up.
I will do that then. I'll give you the poll. I'll give you this. Yeah, if you guys have any particular suggestions and I fly solo next week, absolutely let me know what they are here too. I've been dying to review something, like this. And this movie is just so good. There's not a lot of them like it. There's a few. We mentioned a few of them tonight. Whether it's the old Thomas Crown or the new Thomas Crown, I mean, they're just fantastic movies. Or if you want something else, we'll put a poll up on for Tuesday. We do have coming up here in 2025. We're debating on when to do it, what night, but we're planning on going ahead. And I'll say it, we've talked about it, RDV, is that we want to do our season 1 review, you and I, of Miami Vice. So that's going to be exciting. That's a great TV show that's influenced basically a lot of shows since then, since the 80s. Not going to lie, it's been 30 plus years. Still relevant today. You and I love Michael Mann movies, so I think the time is right for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, been kind of pushing it back in case Pixel wants to join us at all. He'll be coming back soon, probably in the next week or two.
Yeah, we all have had some different schedules the past month, so I appreciate everybody showing up too. I know the holidays is a time where we all have a lot of things on our agenda, but we definitely wanted to keep up with our current schedule.
Especially with Forever Nights, that'll be ending soon as well. Reviewing that.
Yeah, Forever Night, guys. We've recorded a few that are offline too, so I want to say thanks to the people that are watching it and listening to it, as well as some of the other shows that we have.
Crazy this views on that. I don't know what it was, but it's just that one episode, it just got picked up and just like tons of views. So
yeah, and there's plenty of playlists there for you guys to go and check out, or something there too. We've got enough old material that we've been taking some off and either putting it in private or going to redo it because there's some stuff we really like. So like I say, if there's something, whether it's a TV show or movie, something like that, relatively new or not, feel free to talk about it. That's what we do here is we get together, we just kind of talk off the cuff. We don't really plan that out a lot or anything, and we just talk about things and themes with it too.
All right. I will see you guys. Well, we'll see you guys on Tuesday then.
Good night now.
Good night.